Welcome to the Divorce View talk show at divorceview.com. Hello, it's Joanie Winberg. I'm the founder of the National Association of Divorce for Women and Children, and also the facilitator of the online active or interactive course called How to Emotionally Survive Divorce. It's always my pleasure to do this show together with my co-host, Rosalind Sadaka. Hello, Roz.
Hi, Joanie. Good to see you this week. I'm Rosalind Sadaka. I'm recognized as the voice of child-centered divorce, founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, and a divorce and parenting coach and author of How Do I Tell the Kids About the Divorce? And we have a wonderful family law attorney, our guest today, who is going to give us a wealth of information about preparing for divorce. Joanie, why don't you introduce our guest?
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to bring on board here Jason Lavoie. Hello, Jason.
Hi guys. Hi, Joanie. Hi, Roz. How are you?
Great. I'm just thrilled you're here. And you have a very interesting, unique, and way of something different than I found than a family law attorney. So I want everyone, our listeners, to know what you're doing that's different. And then we're going to go into the 5 tips on how to prepare yourself for divorce with or without an attorney. So Jason, give us some background and tell us this unique thing that you're helping people when they're going through divorce.
Well, I appreciate it, and I can't wait to talk to your audience and hopefully provide a lot of value during this discussion. I guess what I do is unique, although it shouldn't be, really, but in my field it tends to be. So I'm a family law attorney. I practice in New York and New Jersey for the past few years. And during my practice and going to court, I saw a lot of similar trends and, frankly, some disturbing things. And it started eating at me. And the main one that I just couldn't get over was the amount of people who kept showing up in court for their divorce or their family law issue, and they didn't have an attorney. It could have been for any number of reasons. Maybe they started with an attorney and then didn't have enough money to keep funding the divorce. Maybe they could never afford an attorney from the get-go and they're going it alone. But at some point they're by themselves and left to fend for themselves and in court. And for anybody, especially if you're not an attorney, that's an extremely stressful thing to do. Even for an attorney, it's stressful to appear in court. So, frankly, I got a little disengaged with the practice of matrimonial law, and I left the litigation practice, and I went to practice in another area of law. But something kept nagging on me because I wanted and I enjoyed helping these people. Divorce is probably one of the most traumatic experiences you can go through in your lifetime, and to do it alone just doesn't seem right in a lot of ways. So what I decided to do was I decided to see what I could do and help as many people as possible, and I started my own website. It's under my name, jasonlavoie.com, and the whole point of what I'm trying to do is help people who can't afford an attorney learn how to represent themselves in their divorces.
Wonderful.
And teach them step by step what they need to do to put themselves in the best position to succeed. And so that's what I'm trying to do.
I think it's wonderful, and I guess I never realized it. Roz, I don't know if you did either. I didn't know that many people went into court without any representation.
Yeah, well, when you're living in areas where people have more economic challenges, then you find more and more of that, and of course it's a real disadvantage. So especially if one side of the divorce can afford an attorney and the other can't. So this is a wonderful service. Can you tell us more about how it works?
Sure. Right now I'm still kind of formulating and getting things up and running, but my website's up, and what I've been doing is I've been blogging right now at twice a month is my schedule. Hopefully it can increase in the future. But I've been blogging on issues that are common to anybody in divorce. I practice in mainly New Jersey, but so I'm not legally allowed and permitted through the ethics rules to give legal advice to anybody outside of New Jersey. So, for example, in Florida or Colorado, any other states, every state has their own specific laws pertaining to divorce. Um, but that being said, there's so many common issues that no matter what your state-specific law is, that people go through in their divorce process. So right now, I'm kind of targeting with a broad scope that and covering issues that most people will go through at some point in the process, and try to help them out and at least give them some venue where they can contact me and ask me questions. And if I don't know the answer, I can at least point them in the right direction. There's a lot of resources out there, including you guys, that people need to know about. And there are ways to represent yourself to the best of your ability, and especially if the other side has an attorney. I'm definitely not a substitute for having an attorney next to you, but I like to think of myself at least as the next best thing, where I can at least give you all the knowledge that I have, and hopefully, you can use that to, help you and represent yourself with at least the confidence that you're probably lacking right now if you don't have anybody.
I would say confidence would be number one, that I'd be scared to death. So I know you mentioned 5 tips on how to prepare yourself for this process if you are going in without an attorney. So maybe you can start that and help our listeners know at least the top 5 things that they should be doing. And it sounds like it's across the board. It doesn't matter what state you're from. It sounds like they're pretty general, but at least people would be starting on the right foot, hopefully.
Exactly. I think these 5 tips on how to prepare for your divorce are, again, it's general and it applies to everybody, no matter what state you're in. Now, I always, qualify anything I say with check the laws of your particular state, and consult an attorney if you're able to do so before you rely on any action on any site, let alone mine. But what I'm doing here is giving you advice on how to prepare before you get to the law of your case. So hopefully that'll help. And the biggest thing I find is, starting early. That would be my tip number 1. Start early, before the complaint is even filed. A lot of people think the first, divorce starts when that complaint for divorce is filed. And that's true. That's the official, beginning of the process. But the process for you, if you can, should start a lot earlier than that.
So I was just going to have some clarity there. So say, for example, both the couple is starting to talk about we're not getting along, you just sense that something's not right. Is that what you mean there?
Well, exactly. I mean, let's be honest. Usually, it's not a surprise that the marriage is broken, or that divorce is imminent. It shouldn't be a surprise, I would think. And so I'm sure things, if discussions haven't been going on, for some time prior to, it should be evident that one side is not happy. So let's say it's you who's not happy, and it's you who's contemplating divorce. This tip is especially important for you because as soon as that complaint is filed, the other person is going to be on the defensive. I think that's just human nature. And a divorce is a litigious process, and it doesn't have to be, but if you're involved in court, it usually is. So you want to start doing things before that complaint's filed to prepare yourself. And so what do I mean by that? I mean, put on your investigator's hat. That's what I like to call it. And if you're, for example, if you're the spouse who doesn't handle much of the finances, every marriage is different. Some marriages, one person handles the finances. Some it's balanced. For example, in my marriage, it's balanced. We both do different things. But especially if you are the spouse that doesn't usually handle the finances and pay the bills and things of that nature, now's the time to start getting yourself familiar with what's going on, because a big part of a divorce is the financial picture. So, you want to know what accounts do you have, what are the joint accounts? I'm surprised at how many people, when I ask them, they don't even know, how many joint accounts they have. But find out, and now's the time to do that before the divorce officially starts, because the other spouse is probably not, being super secretive and trying to hide things. And, if the marriage has been kind of broken for a while, then it's a status quo of malcontent, if you will. But that's the time you should have access to everything, because nobody's trying to hide anything, because there's no reason to. So make a list of all the accounts you have, bank accounts, joint accounts, credit cards, tax returns,
Property, anything like that?
Property, assets, anything that you think is going to have to be, dealt with in the divorce or distributed in some way. Make a list, because that's going to be your guide throughout the process. If you're not sure, now once the process starts, information has to be exchanged, right? That's called discovery. But you'll feel so much better about yourself and so much more confident if you know ahead of time what needs to be exchanged. So when it's exchanged, all you have to do is check it off the list. Okay, that was done. If you're not sure what accounts exist, or what consists of the marital lifestyle and the marital pot there, then when things are exchanged, you're not going to know or be 100% sure that that's everything. So before the divorce, before it starts, now's the time to start planning and making that list. And I have a checklist that people who sign up for my newsletter, which you can do on my website, through my emails, I email you a opportunity to get a checklist, which I outline all the documents that you need, that you should be focusing on before the divorce starts. So at least you have a barometer for what you're talking about.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that's tip number one.
Okay.
And when I say put on your investigator hat, I always have to qualify that statement too. I don't want you to start engaging in what I call, quote, risky behavior. This is, be smart and be safe about it. You don't want to, God forbid, end up in a domestic violence incident because you're trying to, snoop around your spouse's computer or get access to accounts. Do it when they're not around. Obviously, don't broadcast what you're doing. It's just, this is your time to start information gathering.
Interesting. So put on that detective's hat. Is that what you said?
Yeah, your detective's hat, your investigator's hat, and it's information gathering, because that's what you're going to do anyway, and that's what any family law attorney is going to tell you to do too if there's time. The point is, before the complaint's filed, time is on your side. So you want to take advantage of that time and plan. Just like you would plan for a vacation, frankly. You're planning for your divorce, and that planning sets the bedrock for the whole process. And if you're prepared and you're organized, then you'll be a lot more confident.
I guess what's coming up for me is it things, the reason you need to do this, is it because of things that you suspect that's not all up front? Or what would be some of the information that person should be gathering with their inspector's hat on or the detective's hat on?
Well, sure, and it's not necessarily because you think or you believe the other side's going to be deceptive during the process. It's more for your own well-being and your own sense of peace, that as you go throughout the process, when information is exchanged, everything is on the up and up.
Okay.
And it's just a safeguard for you more than anything else, because again, the information has to be exchanged. I don't know any state that the law says you don't have to do that. So, but as far as what you're looking for, tax returns, at least your last 3 years of tax returns. I would put that together. Like I said before, all your bank accounts, your sole bank accounts in your name, in his name, both everybody's bank accounts, individual names, including obviously the joint accounts. and frankly, you just have to know what accounts exist, and so just account numbers, the name of the bank and the account number, if you can get that.
Okay.
That'd be great. Credit cards, that's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Make a list of all the credit cards that you have that are in your name, your spouse's name, and obviously joint cards. And so it's a Visa and the account number, just so you know that that's an account that you're going to have to reconcile at some point during the process.
Okay.
Okay. So what's tip number 2 then? Once we
Now that was 2. So what's tip number 3?
Oh, that was 2. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, that was kind of I guess that was kind of a meld of 1 and 2.
Oh.
Yeah.
My second tip, though, I would definitely say is organization. Organization in a divorce is key. I can't tell you how many clients that I speak to say, I meet with them and I say, bring all your relevant information, anything that you think I should look at, bring it. And they bring me this mess of a folder or a hodgepodge, yes, a smorgasbord of stuff, and it's a mess, and you spend half the meeting just trying to collate it and see if there's anything useful there at all. So
costly for the client too.
Absolutely, because if you're dealing with an attorney, time is money, right? So what I say is get a box, steal some manila folders, or don't steal them, but manila folders, and label them. So first one would be bank accounts. Second one would be credit cards. Okay, and you paperclip, each list. If you can get statements for these documents, print out statements. You don't have to print out
each folder.
Yeah.
Would you also say, like I said, we talked about other things like 401ks, retirements, properties, include maybe folders for those as well. Just get everything.
Everything. Yeah. Everything that you can think
be
of.
Be organized. I think the bottom line we hear is be organized.
Absolutely. Whatever works for you. Everybody is organized in different ways. I just find that using folders is the best way, especially if you ever have to show or meet with an attorney and kind of show them what you've done and where you're at. Then it's so easy, and the attorney will appreciate it. I can't tell you that you present them with all these labeled folders or a binder. I had a client once give me a binder, and it was documented by month, of the accounts, and it was great because you don't waste time trying to identify things. You can go right to it and get down to business.
Mm-hmm.
So that's organization.
Okay, so what would be the next one?
So the next one, tip number 3, I guess we're at, right, is don't wait to get permission from the court to start doing this. Start doing it right away, because people's expectations for what the court's going to do for them in the divorce, typically seems to be out of whack. And it's not their fault. They don't know. But, by the time they're involved with the process, they find out the hard way. So, I'll lay it out pretty clearly for you. I don't know any state where, the court is on your side. Okay? The court's not your friend. And whether you're defending yourself, the court's not going to be on your side. So it's a neutral party. So the court can't give you legal advice. Everybody wants to ask the court, well, what should I do, when I get this paper, or what's the next step in the process? And courts aren't going to tell you because they can't tell you. What courts can do is give you procedural advice, and sometimes they have forms that they'll give you to help fill out, and you're lucky if you can get that. But other than that, the court's not going to be very helpful.
And pretty much, I know, as far as just talking and knowing in general, that when you go to court, pretty much at that point, they're expecting everybody to be prepared, and they're just going to be making a decision at that point, right? Pretty much the courts. I mean, because everyone should be coming in at that point with all their information.
Right, and again, that's where the organization comes in, super handy, because the court expects people who aren't represented. We call them pro ses. You're expected to know the law and to know the procedure. And the fact of the matter is, I would say 60%, maybe 70% of judges, have a soft spot in their hearts for people representing themselves. and will grant some sort of leniency. But frankly, that's not something that the litigant can rely on and expect to receive. So you have to be prepared, like you said, and go in there with confidence that you know what your goal is and that you know why you're asking the court for some relief. That's why you're there. So you have to know why you're asking for that relief and have a good faith basis and support, to get the court to grant it. And organization that plays a whole role in doing that. So,
and like you said, be organized, but don't expect the court to be there to help you. They're expecting it already, that you're in there prepared to go.
Absolutely. I mean, anything that you get from a court or a judge to help you, that's like the cherry on top.
Okay, but don't count on it.
But don't count on it, because if you don't get it, then you're going to be left hanging, and then it's too late, because, like you said, you're there. The judge is going to make a decision that day probably on whatever it is you're there for. So, I say go to your local law library. Hopefully there's one close by. Most of them really are helpful to people, representing themselves, and law librarians are some of the most, intelligent people that I've ever come across, and most of them are generally happy to help you and will point you in the right direction. If you're trying to find out what the law is in your state, regarding an issue in your divorce, or you want to know, what the alimony guidelines are in your state, whatever it is, you can do your online research. That's great, but go to a law library and get it from the source, because that's where the attorneys are getting it from. And then
that's big. That's huge.
And then this all helps you get the confidence that you don't have. Everybody's heard the saying, knowledge is power, right? So if you have the knowledge, which in part is what I'm trying to do, is give people the knowledge that the attorneys have, that will in turn give them the confidence
to represent themselves.
Represent themselves.
So I think we have one more. Is there one more tip?
We can do one more or two more. I can do a bonus tip if you want.
Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
So my next tip would be, and this kind of goes in turn with what we were talking about, act like a lawyer. Again, we've heard the saying, fake it till you make it. How often have we heard that? It goes for the same here, I think. Obviously you're not a lawyer. Lawyers go through years of schooling and training, and they have a specialized base of knowledge. But fake it. Be confident. Confidence is 80% of the game, I think.
I would think so.
And if you have done your homework and done your research, and you understand what the law is, and you understand what the court procedure is for a hearing, you're going to walk into that courtroom standing high, chest out, and now you may not win or you may not get the relief you want, but whether you have an attorney or not, there's no guarantee for that. So the only thing you can do is be prepared as best as possible and lay out your argument to the court, and then you just hope for the best. That's what, frankly, that's what attorneys, that's all we do. And
pretty scary though. I mean, I'm just getting this vision of coming in there and representing yourself, and if your spouse or ex-to-be has a shark for an attorney, that's pretty scary. So you really better have some good confidence and know what you're doing.
It's imperative. Otherwise, you'll be so handicapped, you won't even be able to speak. And I don't care who's on the other side. As you're going to get a turn to speak, right? And no matter what is said by the other side's attorney, if they have one, you're going to have your say. And it's important that when you do have your turn to speak, that you can convey in a persuasive and articulate manner, your message. And that's all lawyers do, is they articulately convey an argument and a position, and supported by hopefully some legal precedent. But
So
then the judge makes a decision.
besides being organized, you better have that tone in your voice.
You know what I tell people?
That no discussion tone.
I tell people when it sounds silly, Joanie, I say it's like preparing for a public speech. Practice.
Yeah.
Practice. Don't write out your whole spiel that you want to tell the court, but if you know your argument and you know your position and what you're relying on, then it'll come out naturally. But you should practice out loud. Stand in front of a mirror if you have to, the night before. And that way, when you go in, when the words come out of your mouth for the first time, they usually sound different than when you say it to yourself in your head.
Absolutely.
Right?
Definitely.
And so, as silly as it sounds, I do say, and I recommend to people, practice. Practice saying what you want to say out loud first, because you can tweak it. You can hear your confidence or your lack of confidence, and then you can adjust it. But that's huge.
So I think we have one more.
You have time for one more?
Okay, good. Alrighty.
The last one is a little more intricate, and I won't say advanced, but it's something that I'm developing a e-course on. And I forgot to mention that I have an e-course. It's a free course that all your listeners are welcome to take.
Is that through your website too?
It's through a different link. It's jasonlavoy.com/free course.
Okay.
And I could send you a link. You could post that up if you want for your audience. The free course is on what we're going over right now, how to prepare for divorce. So it's covering everything that we're talking about today, and in a little more detail. So, in case people are trying to take notes, and I know I talk fast, but they can listen to the course and at their own pace, and it's absolutely free. But the last tip has to do with writing. A lot of times, especially in a divorce, people have to file a motion, right? And all a motion is, for those that don't know, it's a fancy legal word for you're asking the court for relief. Whenever you want the court to do something, you have to file a motion. And that's how you get on the court's calendar and get the court's attention. Otherwise, they're really not paying attention to your case. And so usually you submit some sort of papers with your motion. Your motion is paperwork mainly. And sometimes it ends in showing up in court where you can, have oral argument and, verbally convey what you want to the court. But that's not always the case. So the papers are extremely important. And writing for the court is a skill that, to be honest, many attorneys aren't very good at. But it's something that everybody can learn. And there's a way to lay out what you want in an organized, organization fashion and persuasive manner to give you the best chance to succeed. It's just, I've seen people write their own papers, and it's just like they vomited all over the page. And they're not writers, they don't know. But courts are very, and attorneys do that too. You laugh, but attorneys do that too. And courts don't like that. Courts want to know, what are the facts?
Clear, concise, bottom line.
Right, and give me a reason. If you're a judge, you're sitting in that chair, and you're looking for the litigants to give you a reason to grant your request. I think judges are inclined to want to give you what you want if there's a basis to do so. And your job is to tell the court what that basis is. And again, that's where the research comes into play and how you put that down on paper. The writing is very important. So, my tip is to focus. If you have to file a motion, try to, usually court records are public documents, try to see if you can get your hands on other people's motions to get an idea of format. This is stuff that I'm going to cover on my website, on my blog, and I'm developing another course on writing motions. But it's a big piece that people should focus on.
Wow, it just amazes me the amount of work that's involved. and it's at that point I'm ready to call an attorney just from listening to all of this.
It is a lot of work.
Maybe a mediator, a collaborative law attorney, but I'm like, oh my goodness, this is quite involved.
It is, and that's why legal bills can be so high. But everybody. Oh, sorry, Roz. Yeah.
I just wanted to share, as founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, most of the time we try to steer families when children are involved away from litigation and into mediation and into arenas that are not one spouse battling the other, because the kids always end up at the short end of the stick when that happens. And when parents are battling in litigation and the divorce ends, then they have to figure out how to co-parent peacefully and cooperatively again, and sometimes it gets very aggravated due to the litigation process. So I'm hoping when children are involved too, that you give special attention to trying to create peaceful outcomes and not letting the courts make decisions that really parents would be better off doing together. Just wondering if you had any feelings about that.
Oh, do you have another hour? That's huge, Roz, and I couldn't agree with you more. I talk about court. I've been talking about court a lot because, if you're representing yourself, odds are that's where you're going to end up. There are other avenues, like you said, like mediation. A lot of states have what's called collaborative divorce.
Yes.
Which is great, and I am a huge fan of those processes. But in order for those processes to work and be effective, everybody needs to be on the same page. And if you have two people with children who truly want to do what's in their best interest and keep it as low drama and amicable as possible, then I say mediate, absolutely. Find yourself a good mediator and get it done, because a divorce doesn't have to be nasty and it doesn't have to be expensive or long. But when one party wants it to be, that's where we run into problems.
Totally understand, and thank you for saying that, because I just wanted to clarify that for our listeners. There's a place for everything depending on the level of conflict among the partners.
Right.
Absolutely. You can only lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right?
Absolutely. Well, this is wonderful. Remind us about your website again so people can know where to access the great information you have.
And the free course.
Free course as well.
Sure. You can reach me at jasonlevoy, levoy.com. It's all one word. And there you'll see my blog, and I cover common issues that everybody everybody deals with at some point in their divorce. And I always tell people, contact me, send me an email, jason@jasonlevoy.com, and tell me what you're struggling with, and what if I don't cover it on my website, tell me and I'll cover it. And I'm really big on that. And my free course, How to Prepare for Divorce, you can find that at jasonlevoy.com/free course.
Excellent. That is wonderful, because to me, even if a person does end up having an attorney, at least that they would even be more informed of the expectations. I think the expectations are so different than what they might face in court, as you mentioned, for sure.
Right. And the more information somebody has, this is also great if you have an attorney. I say,
right. That's what I mean.
Because you'll use less of your attorney's time, which will mean less of a bill for you. So, it can't hurt.
Well, Jason, thanks so much for being on the show. You really helped clarify a lot of the unknowns, but also to help people understand that if they do decide to go down the path without an attorney, that there is someone who's been there, who's an attorney himself, that can help them learn the different steps and the things you need to do to prepare yourself. And then if you do have an attorney, also just to be more informed. So once again, your website is Jason Levoy, which is Jason, and it's LEVOY.com, right? JasonLevoy.com.
Got it. Yeah.
Got it. Excellent. So thanks so much for being on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. And also, we'd like to make sure that you have this recording again, or this show again, as a recording to watch, and you can see Jason and learn more on thedivorceview.com. And also, Roz, I'd like the listeners to know a little bit about you and what you are offering too as far as support.
Certainly, if your divorce involves children in any way, then the childcentereddivorce.com has information for you, valuable resources, free ebooks, courses, programs, and answers to any questions you have. And in addition, I do personal coaching sessions so people can feel supported before, during, and long after the divorce, because one thing about co-parenting, there's no end. And that goes on forever. We want to make sure parents are getting the best experience to give their kids the best experience. So check us out at childcentereddivorce.com. And Joanie, tell us about the resources you're offering.
Oh, absolutely. I come from the emotional support after divorce, and it's actually a 4-step process. It works beautifully along with therapy if you're going through that as well. And it's going to give you how to communicate best with your ex or ex-to-be, and also to help you move forward with the goals and just really the skills and tools that we need as people now that we're divorced, and how do we move on with our life. And you can go to freshstartafterdivorce.com for that information, and it's an interactive live course, so it's exciting to see people progress and move forward. So once again, thanks so much to everyone for joining us on the show.
Let's just remind our viewers that we are now a podcast, and
yes.
If they go to divorceview.com, they can click on the link and then subscribe to the podcast, so you'll get notified every week about the new show coming up and our new guests. And we have some wonderful people lined up, just as Jason was wonderful today. So thank you again, Jason.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And we look forward to everyone seeing us again next week.
And thanks for tuning in. Take care.